Your four favorites are Fitzcarraldo, Fire of Love, The Keep, and A Fish Called Wanda. My top choice for you is painfully obvious. I'm sure you already knew this film existed, but you didn't have it marked as watched. And if that's because it wasn't on any streaming services, luckily someone uploaded a copy to YouTube a couple months ago. But Fitzcarraldo was directed by Werner Herzog, and Fire of Love is a documentary about Katya and Maurice Kraft. So naturally, I'm going to recommend Werner Herzog's film The Fire Within: Requiem for Katya and Maurice Kraft, which coincidentally was released the same year as Fire of Love. But this isn't Herzog's only volcano-related documentary. I also think you'd enjoy Into the Inferno. Raiders of the Lost Ark, like Fitzcarraldo, depicts a man going on an ambitious yet dangerous quest in Peru, or at least the opening is set in Peru. Like Fire of Love, it's got this feeling of discovery and exploration, but also risk and danger. Like The Keep, it's historical fiction involving Nazis. And like A Fish Called Wanda, it's a fun film with a sense of humor where the characters are after something valuable. The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, like Fitzcarraldo, is a film about obsession and hubris that takes place in the mountains, with nature proving to be an obstacle for man's ambitions. Like Fire of Love, it shows how nature can be harsh and unpredictable. Like The Keep, it has a feeling of isolation because it takes place in a remote area in the mountains. And like A Fish Called Wanda, it's about greed and betrayal. The Abyss, like Fitzcarraldo, depicts a group of people on a quest that seems nearly impossible and involves a watercraft and extreme environmental conditions. Also, both films were notoriously difficult and dangerous to make, and the films themselves mirror the production process. Like Fire of Love, it captures how nature can be beautiful and mysterious, but also deadly, and it's also about love. Like The Keep, it involves some sort of mysterious entity, and like A Fish Called Wanda, the characters have clashing personalities. Pan's Labyrinth, like The Keep, is a dark fantasy film that takes place during a war, and like Fitzcarraldo, the protagonist is a bit of a dreamer. Thief, like The Keep, is a Michael Mann film with a Tangerine Dream score, and diamond heists are part of the story, like in A Fish Called Wanda. Since Fitzcarraldo blurs the line between fiction and reality because the protagonist mirrors Herzog's own obsession with trying to make the film itself, and you have a documentary in your favorites, I want to recommend a couple films that blur the line between documentary and fiction, so I think you'd enjoy Close Up and F for Fake. It feels lazy and kind of like cheating to recommend a bunch of films from the same directors, but if I'm trying to recommend the movies I genuinely think you'd like the most, instead of just giving you variety for the sake of it, then honestly I have to throw in a few more Herzog films. Aguirre, The Wrath of God, has a similar vibe to Fitzcarraldo, and obviously it's Herzog and Kinski again. Speaking of which, I know you already saw Burden of Dreams, but another documentary that discusses the making of Fitzcarraldo is My Best Fiend. And the reason why I feel compelled to recommend so many Herzog films isn't just because you're a fan of Fitzcarraldo. I think as a fan of Fire of Love, you'd also enjoy Grizzly Man because it's similarly a documentary about nature and taking risks. Speaking of documentaries about nature and taking risks, I also want to recommend Free Solo. I recently watched The Keep, and the first film that came to mind while I was watching it was Overlord, and you saw basically all the other films that came to mind, so I think this might be the closest you'll get to The Keep from a narrative standpoint. But I also think you might enjoy The Hidden for the 80s aesthetic and the way it blends genres, or The Hunger, which, like The Keep, is an atmospheric horror film from 1983 involving supernatural forces. And because you like A Fish Called Wanda, some comedy heist films I think you should check out are The Lady Killers, Logan Lucky, The Italian Job, and Snatch.